Hi everyone, and welcome to this fly tying video where I'm going to show you how I tie one of my pink squirmy worms. So, the hook I use to tie these flies is the Hanek Jig Superb. It's a Hanek 450BL in a size 16. Always a size 16 for these. Beads I use, again, Hanek competition round, fluoro beads. These are the pink, just the standard pink bead. I've got a 3.5 I'm going to tie for this video. You can tie them in 3s, you can tie them in 2.5s. But whatever you want, that's pretty much your range. 2.5, 3.5 mil bead. Materials wise, you don't need an awful lot. I've got a little bit of nano silk. This is the pink nano silk in the 30 denier. I've got some Glow Bright floss loaded onto a bobbin. This is the Glow Bright number 2. If you don't have the number 2, you could use the number 1 as well. Squirmy material. The stuff that I like to use is the Fulling Mill stuff. So it's the Fulling Mill original Squirmy. You can tie this same fly with both the original Squirmy red and the original Squirmy pink. This stuff here is the original Squirmy pink. I tie them both with those two different colours. However, I always use, regardless of what colour Squirmy I'm using, I still just use the fluoro pink bead. I just feel it goes with both colour. So, and by having the fluorescent pink bead with the red coloured squirmy material, it just makes it look a little bit more pinky, which I think the grayling prefer. So hook goes in, bead on. Now this is a 3.5 mil bead, and you can see it just ever so slightly crowds the eye. So what we're going to do, and that's why I said I'm going to use a little bit of nano silk, tiny bit of nano silk wax on the very edge, like the last inch or so with a thread. Tie that on. The reason why I want to put I only want the wax, the black wax, to only go on the last inch or so of the thread, is because I only want the wax when I'm tying that thread on, just to give it a bit of grip and to make it stick to the hook shank nicely. And then when I get back down towards the eye, I don't want any more wax on the thread at that point. I want it to be pink. So that's why I only want a little bit on the end of your thread before you do it. Throw the bead to the front, get it into position. A couple of wraps behind the bead. Catch a couple of wraps around the eye, behind the bead, around the eye, behind the bead. Just do that a couple of times. And then that's nice and secure. This nano silk, it's the 30 denier nano silk that I'm using here. So it's the finer stuff, so you can do that and it won't cause you any build up at all. It's so fine, this thread. Strong, but so fine, it's nice. Tie off. So I basically just use the nano silk just to make sure I've got that bead on secure in a way where I'm not crowding the eye. You can see it's not crowding the eye at all. So when I tie it onto my cast, it's gonna be nice. And I've used the pink nano silk so that here where you will see a little bit of thread, it blends in nicely. It doesn't stand out. Okay, so on to tying the actual fly itself now. Get your, what was going off there? Something went off wrong with my recording. I think let's see if it's all right. So get your glow bright, tie that on. And once you've tied it on, what I do is I move it up and angle it down slightly, okay? So I end up being a bit like that. And then I come back and I actually go right the way around the point, like further around right the way around the bend, further around the bend than you would expect. So if that was in the vise normally now, look, I've come right the way around that bend to there, yeah? But because you're around the bend, it just sits nicely if you angle it and point it downwards. Come in with your squirmy. So like pinch it, try and do this on the camera, so actually you got a little bit in your fingers there. Catch it in. Now it always moves ever so slightly once you've got it on, so I actually come and I kind of like catch it in so it's on the side of the hook facing me. So I'm like it's towards me rather than directly on the back. Because then when you come and do a wrap around the back, wrap around the front and wrap around the back again, and then wind your thread right the way up to behind the eye. When you then start to wind this round to make the rest of the body and finish the fly, it kind of pulls that squirmy tail round, so it's pretty much exactly where you want it. So little tip there, when you catch it, just have it more towards you than in the centre. And what I do is I kind of pull it up a little bit, put my finger on it, drop it to the bottom, give it a nice little pull again to the top. So every time I'm kind of like giving it a bit of stretch, not loads, and then just making my way to behind the bead, and I go 1, 2 wraps behind the bead, 1, 2 wraps. Sorry, 2 wraps behind the squirmy, couple of wraps in front of the squirmy. Bit of tension, cut the squirmy off. Now, you can at this point just whip finish and that be the job done. You can put a little bit of dubbing on there, like a little bit of ice dubbing, pink ice dubbing if you want to in there. You've got to be very careful with your Sally Hansen's if you are going to use it. Now, thing is with Sally, she doesn't like squirmies, our Sally, and she'll, if you put too much on and you touch the squirmy too much with it, the squirmy material, it'll just break apart and it'll start to deteriorate the squirmy and your fly will fall apart. So the way I kind of get around that, because I do want to use a little bit of Sally Hansen's because I want this to be a bit more durable. Squirmies are never going to be massively durable, are they? But a bit more durable. I'll do a whip finish first, 2, 3, 3-turn whip finish first, without using any Sally. Drop my thread back around it. And what that's done is kind of, it's put a little bit of thread already, like a little bit of a thread collar. So then when I come in with my Sally, and like I said, I'm not using much at all, putting a little bit on the thread. And now when I come into whip finish for the second time, I'm angling it so I'm wrapping around the bead and it's falling onto that thread. 3 turns, everything's angled so I'm avoiding the squirmy material. If you get a little bit of build up, wipe it off towards the bead. Come in, cut your thread off, and that way you can still use a little bit of Sally Hansen's without destroying the squirmy worm, but you have got to be careful. And that's it, complete. So the reason why I've come right the way down the hook past the bend is so that the squirmy actually looks straight on the shank. What can happen if you don't go all the way back and you end up staying kind of like, you know, you're only wrapping it to where the bend of the hook is, your squirmy can end up sticking out, like sticking up proud, and it just looks odd. So if you tie a few of these and you find that the squirmy material is kind of like sticking upright like this, sticking up out the top of the hook, you just have another go, but try wrapping back further around the bend of the bead and see what it looks like then, and you'll find the sweet spot, I'm sure. One thing to bear in mind with these, if you're going to be using them in a competition, just get your gauge out and make sure that you chop it. That's probably looking at it a little bit too long. Competition wise, I perhaps would need to chop her just a little bit, probably about there, off that to make it comp legal. But if you do fish comps, for me there's no point in having any of these in your box which aren't comp legal, so mine will get cut to size before they go in the box, so I don't have to worry about having any oversized flies in there. But that's it, really simple squirmy. It's good that they're simple because you can tie a load quickly because they don't last very long. You'll fish them, you'll catch a few fish, tails will get chopped off, snapped off, whatever. They're not the most durable fly, but they do work really well, so it is definitely worth having a few in your box, different sizes. Hope you've enjoyed that video. I hope you enjoy tying this fly. Tight lines everyone. Enjoy your fishing. Take care.